Madam President, I recommend that you adopt the agenda as it is presented.
May I make a motion? May I make a motion to pull some of the items from the consent agenda?
Please go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to pull a number of these, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 13.
Do we have a second? With that, our motion is going to pass, I guess. I'm sorry. I mean, like pass in the moment of time. My apologies. I'm sorry. I was looking for the words, of what I'm going to say next. My apologies. I would like to move that we adopt our agenda as presented. Might I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Kindly, may we please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Ovalle,
Yes.
Board Member Edmiston,
Yes.
President Trujillo.
Aye. With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to item B1, our superintendent's report.
Madam
Dr. G?
President, members of
floor
the
is yours.
board, cabinet, and our audience and viewing members, we've had a wonderful start to this year, and I've been able to visit several classrooms, meeting directly with families and community members across the district and working with our students to hear ideas about school and what they want to see. Earlier this evening, we got to celebrate several sponsors and our Phoenix One Foundation who made it possible to recognize our outstanding employees at the Phoenix #1 Night of Inspiration. We're grateful for this community. We are also grateful for everyone who works every day for our students and for our families and community, and making sure that our students are getting to experience the highest quality education. I'm also pleased to highlight that September 15th marks the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, which runs through October 15. This is a wonderful opportunity for students to learn about and celebrate the rich histories, cultures, and contributions of Hispanic Americans. From music, art, literature, and science, our schools will be engaging in activities that allow our students to explore the rich history, traditions, and stories to foster deeper understanding and building understanding across cultures. Speaking of arts, I want to bring your attention to a fantastic opportunity for our students and families for Phoenix #1. The Musical Instrument Museum is hosting an arts event for our district on October the 1st from 5 o'clock to 7:30. We will have musical performances by students from Garfield, Whittier, and Herrera, and perhaps one more school. Participation in the arts is a critical part of the Phoenix #1 curriculum. We are proud of the partnerships that provide our students and our families hands-on experiences in the arts. And this opportunity to experience the Musical Instrument Museum and to experience our student performances is one example of many that we're proud to bring. Please be watching our website to learn more about when this will occur and how you and your family can participate. Then in closing and on a somber note, this is a very sad anniversary for our nation. The events of September 11, 2001 are part of a shared history. It's a day that we reflect on and remember those people whose families were torn apart, whose lives were lost, and the courageous first responders. It's a day that helps us appreciate the bonds of community and of coming together to support one another. These are the bonds that bring us together through challenging times, and these are the bonds that keep us bound as a nation. I hope that on this day we remember to constantly work to reach out and to continue to build those bonds of community and to remember what we stand for. And that concludes my remarks this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Do we have any board reports this evening as we move on to item B2?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. First of all, I would like to thank everybody for being here and participating in their local school district, and the people that are watching. I'd also like to give a shout out to the principals who have welcomed me into their schools so far. I've been getting around touring all the schools and getting to check them out and seeing why every single one of them is so special and the kids that go to those schools. And so I just want to thank everybody who's just really welcoming me. And I still have some future schools to hit still. So thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate it.
Any others?
I also just want to thank everybody who has welcomed me in the last month or so. Everybody on the board, administration, and those of you that I've had the opportunity to meet. Everybody has just been really wonderful and welcoming and kind of helpful in getting me up to speed on all the various issues. So I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful to be here to serve.
Thank you very kindly. I'm hoping this start to the new school year is going well for everybody. I get to hear and see all the kids go by at Garfield every morning. I get to see about 6 buses pass me by as the dog walk commences. So I just want to say I'm glad that we're all back in session here. Moving on, let's go to our community communications. Mrs. Ship, how many electronic ones do we have today?
We have 2.
All right. Let's start with those if we could, whenever you're ready. And we'll stick to the 3-minute timer. And I hope you've got the timer going. Okay, great. Thank you.
Our first comment is from Marnie Burris. Good evening, Dr. Gonzalez, President Trujillo, members of the board, and community members. My name is Marnie Burris. I have had the privilege of serving the students and families of Phoenix Elementary School for the past 10 years. First as a classroom teacher and now as an instructional coach. I have seen firsthand the deep, complex needs of the children in our district and the immense value of the professionals who help meet those needs beyond academics. As someone who has dedicated a decade of my life to this district, I want to speak clearly and proudly in support of our school social workers, behavior intervention specialists, and mental health staff. These individuals are not extras or luxuries, they are essential. They are often the difference between a student surviving the school day or thriving in it. We are a Title I district. Many of our students face poverty, housing instability, food insecurity, trauma, and systemic barriers that do not disappear when the dismissal bell rings. Our educators cannot and should not carry the full weight of these realities alone. We rely on the expertise of our mental health professionals, not just to support our students, but to support us as educators in doing our jobs well. I've watched students turn a corner because of social workers' intervention. I've seen classrooms stabilize because a behavior interventionist helped put a plan in place. I've seen teachers stay in the profession longer because they knew they weren't alone in supporting their students. If we are serious about academic achievement, staff retention, and school safety, then we must also be serious about whole child support. I've been here long enough to know that leadership changes. What doesn't change is our responsibility to do right by our kids, and that means keeping the trained professionals in place who know how to meet them where they are. Thank you, Marnie Burris. Our next comment is from Emily O'Neill. Dear board members, I'm a proud teacher in PESD number 1 and member of the Phoenix Elementary Classroom Teacher Association. I urge you to continue to support our social workers and behavioral interventionists whose work is essential to student success. Our social workers and interventionists do the jobs they were trained to do, so that we as teachers can focus on what we train to do, teach. I've seen firsthand how social workers help my students develop appropriate coping and conflict resolution skills so they can engage thoughtfully in our academic content. Removing or reducing social workers and interventionists would only make it harder for us to teach academic content, and I urge you to support their work. Best, Emily O'Neill. This concludes our electronic comments.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to our in-person comments. I'd like to welcome Adrienne Spees to the front, and followed by her will be Nicole Goodwin. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a nice summer. I'm so happy that the kids are back in school. And so tonight I just have a couple things, positive comments, things I support that I see on the agenda tonight. The first thing are the out-of-state field trips that are on the agenda. I'm a parent of a child that has been on these trips and will be going on these trips in the future, and I have found them to be just great overall experience. Yes, there is an academic portion to all of them, and that is nice to supplement what they've been learning all year and to get hands-on involvement, hands-on experience with some concepts that they learned in the classroom. But in addition to that, it really does help them with their independence and their confidence and bonding with their class. And my kids have done these trips before and they've just really been a positive experience. And I think I'm so thankful that there are teachers at my kids' school who are willing to plan these trips. It's really intricate. To the level of detail that they plan them to, and they sacrifice, their time and their comfort, frankly, to take these kids on these trips. And, I've seen teachers who are pregnant, sleeping on bunk beds so kids could do these trips and leaving their nursing baby at home so they can do these trips. And I'm just really thankful to the teachers who do all of this. And so I'm very much in support of these trips. I think they're great enrichment for our kids. I think that I saw the Southwest Behavioral Health back on the agenda tonight, and I really think that whatever services we can bring to our students at the school sites is a good thing, especially if this district is not having to pay extra for it. So a lot of our students need supports, and if we can provide them at the school, then they're more likely to get them. It's going to be more convenient to them. So I'm in support of that, and I'm also in support of social workers. At our school, we have a social worker, and the kids, each of the class will go. And so they learn about things about how to do box breathing so that they could calm themselves down, how to remove themselves from a situation so they can calm down and then get back to their work without it spiraling. They teach them things about having a growth mindset. Like my daughter came home today and say, how do you grow your brain? You do the same thing over again and practice at it. And so these social workers are so great, and they're an intricate part of our school community. So I support all those things. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Nicole. After you will be Nicole Marquez. Thank you.
My name is Nicole Goodwin. Good evening to our governing board and our superintendent and our wonderful cabinet. My name is Nicole Goodwin, and I am a proud first grade teacher at Whittier and PECTA treasurer. I want to thank our governing board and cabinet for a beautiful night of inspiration and recognizing some of the lights in our district. It was nice to dress up, gather, celebrate all the good things that we do for our students in this district. I also want to welcome our newest board member, Sue-Ann Edmiston. I noticed that you asked to have Southwest Behavioral Services removed from last meeting's agenda. And in this district, one of our meeting norms is to assume others have positive intentions. So my assumption is you did it because you would like more information. As a teacher, I rely on social workers to assist our students when they are in crisis. In the 11 years I've been here, I've periodically had a student meltdown in my class to the point it became dangerous for the other students. The social workers have always come in, helped remove those students so I can continue doing my job, which is to teach. All the rest of the class and the rest of the class continue to do their job, which is to learn. The students return a little later when they're calm, and then we can all move on through our day. Whittier also tragically lost a student 2 years ago in a car accident, and the social workers from every site came to support the students and staff in our grief. Sorry. They came from every site to support the students and staff in our grief. And I'm so thankful to our social workers. I'm sorry. It is a common misconception that social workers can counsel a student without parent approval, but parents have to consent to have their students receive services. So parents have reached out to me to have their children receive services. And this is a benefit to our district that we have to offer our students. Please do not take the power away from our parents. Get to know our staff and our parents before making any decisions, and let the parents keep their voice and their control over their children. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll welcome Nicole, and after Nicole, will come Julie Robbins, please. Welcome.
Right. Good evening, President Trujillo, governing board members, and Superintendent Gonzalez, and the leadership team and the community here. My name's Nicole Marquez, and I am a parent in the Creighton School District, and most recently elected to the governing board there in Creighton. And I'm also one of those rare birds that likes to watch school board meetings, especially those of our neighboring school districts. So I'm here to offer some encouragement and support, because I know it's been hard. It's been hard. I mean, in education all around, but especially with what you guys have been going through. And I wanted to speak specifically to the student outcomes focused governance framework that you've been using, because we've been using it too. And prior to joining the board, I had some really serious concerns about it. Most specifically, about the goals that our district had adopted, being so focused on standardized testing. However, in these last 9 months, seeing how it's been implemented and getting to learn it, like I've become a believer. I've seen how we're starting to reach our goals. We're actually working together. We're looking at the data, and kind of like the saying goes, it works if you work it. And, at Creighton, one thing that I love is that we've got our whole board, our whole leadership team, everyone's in alignment. I've talked to teachers, and they're talking to me about our goals and how the work that they're doing is in alignment with SOFG. And so it's beautiful to see. And while I did have my concerns in the beginning, I recognize now that all that hard work and that effort is worth it. And I know right now with everything that y'all are going through, you've put so much work into it. And I think, you're starting to get there and make improvements. And I would just encourage, especially the board, to dive into it and work with your leadership team and work it. Because really, once you start looking at the data and you're disaggregating that and you're seeing what inputs are working and which ones aren't, you're really moving the needle for your kids. And so I wanted to come here and say that, because again, like I said, when I came into it, I was like, But now it's like, the proof is in the pudding. But however, if you guys are divided and you've got other people not doing it, it's the framework isn't going to hold up. So, like I said, I'd encourage you, to keep working at it. Work at those the guardrails, stick to those, and use your coach. And, if you have questions, we've got Roosevelt who's working on it. We're working on it in Creighton. We're here to help each other and support, because ultimately we are the same Phoenix community. Some of our kids live in your district and vice versa. So thank you.
Welcome, Miss Julie. After Julie, we'll have Miss April Pettit, please.
Good evening, Governing Board and Cabinet. My name is Julie Robbins. I've been a school social worker in urban Title I public education for the past 26 years. I've proudly served 13 of those years in this district, one of the social workers that you heard about who responds to the crisis that you heard about. Throughout my career in Arizona and Pennsylvania, the school districts I have worked for have all had partnerships with mental health providers. This is a best practices model for school districts across the nation. This means that professionals in this field widely regard schools partnering with local mental health professionals as the best way to help students with mental health needs. Today, at a board member's request, you will hear more information about one of this district's partnerships. I am thankful and proud that this district has supported and provided mental health partnerships for our families. It is my hope that as these vitally important partnerships come up for consideration, this board continues to renew and approve them. These partnerships come from parent advocacy. Advocacy from parents here in our district and from parents across the state. Parents whose children struggled with mental health and died. Parents who want to save the lives of other children moving forward. Because of these voices, we now have state laws that require school districts to address the mental health needs of students. As I pointed out, people who work with children agree that schools joining forces with community mental health providers is the best way to help our children. By supporting student mental health needs, we also support increased academic performance by helping address potential barriers to learning. And by making these services accessible in school and during the school day, we eliminate some of the barriers to treatment that many of our families encounter. Since COVID, there has been a marked spike in mental health needs for children across the nation. I want to thank this board for helping our children by supporting mental health partnerships in our schools, and therefore making these services more accessible to our families who want and need them. Thank you for highlighting one of the district's best practices.
Welcome, Ms. Pettit.
Dear President Trujillo, Dr. Gonzalez, and members of the board and cabinet, my name is April Pettit, and I'm the proud president of the Phoenix Elementary Classroom Teachers Association. I'm here tonight to introduce myself and to welcome our newest board member to our amazing PESD #1 community. As PECTA president, my job is to represent our members by advocating, supporting, communicating, and organizing. Tonight, I want to focus on support. Specifically, we are here to support our district social workers and behavior interventionists. I honestly cannot imagine a school without them. I am constantly in awe of the work they do every single day. Our social workers support students by teaching coping skills, guiding conflict resolution, addressing attendance and academic motivation struggles, and connecting families with vital community resources such as housing assistance, mental health care, and food programs. They help families navigate the school system, serve on crisis teams, and advocate for equity in education. In short, our social workers help remove the non-academic barriers that get in the way of student learning. They focus on the whole child, making sure emotional, social, and family challenges do not prevent academic and personal success. Every employee in this room has witnessed a time when a social worker or interventionist literally saved a child. That is why we feel so passionately about their value in our schools. To respect everyone's time rather than hearing comment after comment, I want to share that 73 employees have signed on to this statement in full support of our social workers and behavior interventionists. Thank you for your time and for recognizing the invaluable work of these professionals do for our students and families.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. I'd like to move that we approve our consent agenda. Do we have a second?
This is Erica, and I second.
Board Member Ovalle,
Yes.
Board Member Edmiston,
No.
President Trujillo.
Yeah, aye. With that, our motion passes. And we will move on to item E1. We're going to receive and discuss capital improvements financed through our bonds and capital proceeds presentation. Welcome, Mr. Whittle.
Madam President, members of the board, cabinet, thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. According to Arizona Revised Statute 15-491, between September 1st and October 31st, we have to present to the board updates on the bond and capital override progress. That's what we're doing here tonight. So with most of our board being new, we wanted to kind of give a thorough background. So in 2015, we had a bond. 2018, we had a bond. 2019, we had a capital override. And then our last bond was in November of 2022. So district-wide, we are doing asphalt upgrades around, and most of these are going to be pictures just so the board can see the pictures. So we did capital upgrades of asphalt projects. Our interior and exterior cafeteria audio upgrades. This is our capital elementary. As you can see on the left side, that's the before picture. On the right side, that's the after picture of our audio. And you can see that we condensed it and made it more efficient. In our district-wide HVAC repairs and upgrades, we've spent a tremendous amount of money here on our bonds and also our capital overrides. Our emergency demolition and construction, a couple years ago at Herrera Elementary, we had a flood where we went in and we reconstructed most of Herrera and upgraded the facilities there. Our interior and exterior, we have elevator upgrades at Whittier. We currently are on the schedule for an elevator upgrade at Kenilworth, who we will start the day after school and get that completed by June 30th of 2026. Fencing projects and repairs around the district. As you can see, Garfield, Kenilworth, Magnet, Capitol, and Whittier. Our gate repairs, these are huge because they keep out they keep our assets safe. That's what they do, is we want to safeguard our assets from the public. And that's what we're doing, is we're keeping our assets safe and with us in our possession. Interior and exterior, these are our flooring projects. As you can see, we are going more to a standardized polished concrete look. That's it's a slip. It's not slippery, but it is slip resistant. And it's also the way the top left picture, the way that floor looks right now, that's the way it'll look in 100 years with no maintenance on it. So we're trying to do a cost savings whenever we're doing these projects. The flooring, this is Garfield's flooring in their cafeteria that just got completed this summer. Furnishings, so we are purchasing furnishings around the school for the kids, whether that be tables, chairs, around the district. We did about 105,000 in our wall padding install. Now these are very important because not only are they underneath our basketball hoops in our gyms, but they also provide safety for whenever kids, if they run into the wall, there's a safety net there. And also it helps out our PE teachers because it does act as a sound barrier. It reduces the noise in those gyms. I'm sure the PE teachers would like probably more of these to reduce that sound even more, but it does help out on those sound barriers. Site renovation. So this summer, we started a Kenilworth Elementary site renovation. We redid the entire front office, and we also did the bottom floor at Kenilworth as well. So this is some pictures of the project and going through there. And we were able to view, if you guys ever get to Kenilworth, how they completed it looks really, really nice. And it's also, the vestibules are secured. So our front office staff are secured as well. This is the bottom floor at Kenilworth that we did with our faces room. So we have able to get our faces team in there. Additional facilities, our service and repairs. Again, we did our server upgrades. As you can see, we went from a lot of servers to now we're going to terabytes, to where They're more, there's not as many of them because technology has improved, has advanced. So we're upgrading our district servers. District-wide technology, that's throughout the whole entire district. Software and maintenance and warranties. So anytime we do upgrades to our technology department, they also, we want to get the warranties. So if something does happen to them, we can replace them at no cost to us, the district, based on those warranties. And also the licensing to get our kids in the programs that they need to be successful, that does come with a cost as well. Trees for schools. We were able to plant trees all around the campuses. This was a great program and a grant that we were able to use. Playground, you'll see this is the Shaw Montessori. This playground was started back in February of last year and it was completed. And this is a $988,000 playground at Shaw. Probably the best playground in the area, bar none. We are looking at putting a shade structure over the current or the new playground. If you ever get a chance, please go visit Shaw, and I guarantee you their kids are going to tell you about their playground. We are doing playground repairs. So we do have some schools that their playgrounds maybe not ready to be replaced, but we're going to repair them. So we are spending money on repairing those playgrounds to make it, bring it back, bring it up to code and bring the safety issues that could arise. LED lighting upgrades. So we are going around and we're replacing most of our lighting in our classrooms. We just did this at Garfield, and the response we're getting back from the principals, from the teachers, is they love what we're doing with the LEDs. They're able to dim the lights and they're able to turn the lights up. So this is a huge improvement to what we're doing in the classroom. And also it creates a culture and environment that these kids can be successful and they can learn. Site renovations. This is at Garfield. This was one of our major renovations we did this summer. The cafeteria, we completely gutted it and rebuilt stuff. Now this school was built, I believe, in the 80s, 70s. So back then there wasn't as much compliance as there is now. So whenever we do these renovations, we have to come up to ADA compliance. So we were able to work with our team and work with Ms. Sims and develop this fantastic cafeteria. It was brought to my attention that a 8th grader last year came back and saw it and said, "Why didn't you guys do this whenever I was here?" So that's what the responses we're getting from the kids, and we're doing it right now. Here it again is the Garfield Phase 1. This is the front office. Redid all the LED lightings in there, and you can see on the top left, that is the front office gutted. That's the ceiling with them taking out the wires, and we had so many wires in the past that we were able to get our technology department to go through there and really clean up what's going on in the ceilings above these ceiling tiles. Some more pictures. These are the classrooms at Garfield. Just amazing. Did an amazing job. They are still constructing right now at Garfield. I mentioned ADA compliance. We did with our upgrades. We are getting back into ADA compliance so that we're able to pass code. Now, before ADA, there was an ADA code. If you had existing structures, you didn't need to be in compliance. But now that we're doing these major upgrades, we are getting into compliance, and we are working on getting all of our items into ADA compliance. Plumbing repairs. This is a huge thing. Most of the picture you see here is at Garfield. Most of our plumbing is cast iron pipes. Well, over time with cast iron pipes, what happens is it gets brittle and it breaks. So this was at Garfield, right by the kitchen. And what happened was we had to replace these pipes. We don't know that this is happening until we actually dig it up. So whenever we dig up, we're doing these renovations and we're digging up these pipes, we're able to do that, and we're making that decision. Let's just, instead of repairing the pipe, let's just completely replace it. So in 50 or 60 years, the people that are in our position right now, they're not coming back and saying, "Hey, why didn't you guys replace it instead of repair it?" So that's what we're doing with our piping. Painting and repairs, our shade structures. I don't know, our shade structures are amazing. I was at Capitol today, and the top left, that's the Capitol shade structure. Just amazing work. Now, the one thing we are having with our shade structures is these storms coming in. These storms that are coming in, they're tearing up our shade structures. We are getting those replaced through our insurance. So that is we are getting those done as soon as we can. Stage curtains. These are our stage curtains at our school. Top one is Kenilworth and bottom one is Lowell, I believe. Exterior, this is great. Irrigation repairs. This is our garden centers, right? So our garden, they're right there, and we have a beautiful garden, raised garden beds at Edison as well. Our transportation, we bought one EV bus, 4 yellow fleets. So this goes directly back to our students, right? We're investing in our students' transportation, getting them to and from school. We understand at Phoenix Elementary that if our kiddos aren't in the classroom, they're not learning. So in the transportation, we're doing everything we can to get them from their home to school. Transportation repairs and equipment. With that, we need all the equipment to make sure that we are communicating with our families. We're able to purchase the bus ride app. We're really, really pushing the bus ride app so our families can see where their bus is live at the moment. It does have a 2-second delay. So I just want to make everybody aware there's a 2-second delay, but that's what we're able to do with our funding. Turf installation. You walk around, our facilities are just amazing with turf. District-wide equipment. You'll see we're buying refrigerators, water heaters, paint sprayers for our sports programs. One thing that we're not purchasing with this for our equipment is our AEDs. Why? Because we just had a generous donation of our AEDs. Current and upcoming bond projects. As you'll see, we're working on phase 2 of Garfield Elementary renovation. We are site renovations at Edison. There is a construction manager at risk out right now for the Edison. LED lighting at various sites, security controls at Faith North, student laptops, and the Kenilworth elevator replacement that I had mentioned will start on the day after school gets out this year. So your bond dollars at work. This is who it's impacted. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Whittle. Do we have any questions about the presentation?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
I've got one actually. I just wanted to get a little synopsis on where we're at in the process of our going out for our bonds. Like we did this, I believe, in 2021.
Yeah, so
So just
2020
that process, what it looks like for the 7-year period.
Yeah, so 2022 is whenever we went out for the bonds. We did get awarded $97 million. So what happens with the bonds is in 2020 or in 2022, we went out for 97 million. Now, when the district gets approval of bonds, we're getting voter approval to sell the bonds. Not saying we automatically get 97 million. So you can, once you get the authorization to sell the bonds, which we got 97 million, we can sell the bonds in portions. We can sell them all at once. Now the goal and with that is we want to get the bonds spent within a 3 to 5 year period. So 3 to 5 years, we want to get them spent. So that's why we're working overtime right now, is because we had them sold in 2022. We just had the last issuance in 2024. So that starts the clock. And when we can issue, or when we can get those bonds done and paid for and used up, really, because as a taxpayer, you don't want your bonds just sitting there making money, because now it's interest, right? You're making interest on that. So we want to use those bonds as fast as we can.
Thank you for sharing. It's really exciting to see all this work. I also attended Garfield when I was young, and so yeah, when you said, "Oh, it was built in the 70s or 80s," I'm thinking, when was it? When was it built? But yeah, it's looked moving back to the neighborhood it's the same school that I went to on the outside, but it's really wonderful to see all the work being done inside. So
Yeah,
thank you, Kai.
phase 2 is going to be amazing. We're doing a lot in the Garfield community, and we're so excited to see once it is completed.
Another question just popped in my head. I asked for a little more information on the HVAC upgrades. I know we've had, or I've been wanting to understand more about like when sites are more costly because they have many air conditioners versus our campuses that have chillers. Could you maybe share a little?
Yeah,
if that-
absolutely.
If that is included in these HVAC?
Absolutely. So it is, anytime you upgrade HVAC units, you're going from, and that's, I think it's with any technology, technology is always outdated, right? So we're getting 16 SEER or 10 ton 16 SEER. And anytime you go up in the SEER, SEER, you're getting better efficiency. So that's what we're doing is we're changing out the old units, which could be like maybe a one cycle. We're going into 2 cycles. So we're able to upgrade the tonnage or keep the tonnage amount, but upgrade the SEER amount. So with our chiller system, it's a little bit different. It's more of like a swamp cooler. Think of it like a swamp cooler, to where the air is chilled through a chiller system. So that's more efficient. But with what we have right now, you really can't put a chiller on a traditional HVAC facility. You would have to replace the entire water lines, the entire plumbing. So that's what we're doing is with these upgrades, it is being more efficient for the district.
I actually do have a question. How do we allocate the money towards the schools? Is it like at an at-needs basis, like these schools need new pipes, this school needs new curtains, this school needs a whole new front office? How does that work out? And how do we make sure that schools are equally getting the attention that they deserve?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good question. And how it is when you're looking at this, you're looking at what is the most needed, right? Where's the most needs at? And when you look at this, you're looking at the communities, you're looking at the age of the building, you're looking at what's the project cost, what's the budget, are we going to do this in phases? So really we look at through a committee and we say, okay, what schools are up next? What schools are going to be, who has the most needs? Right. So we're working with our IT department. Where's our cameras at, right? If we need AV, if we need audio upgrade, hey, if we get, this school needs one, we're doing a audio upgrade, currently working on one for Capitol. For Garfield. So we're working on audio video upgrades at Garfield. So that's really how it determines what school is what, right?
If I could jump in there really quick, I thought and please correct me, but I thought we periodically got like facilities audits and things like that, and that kind of helped us prioritize. So
Yeah, so-
should I ask when the last one we had was done?
Yeah, so a year ago, 2 years ago, we had a facilities update from the SFD where they came in and kind of audited all of our sites, and we're able to go through and determine who has the most needs.
And I can speak a little bit. We did have that audit this last year, so it's fresh from the school facilities division. I was just joining the district when they had completed the last round of getting ready for the bond. And at that time, the process was to have a community group who met to determine what the needs would be. They also then elicited from each of the principals that were principals at that time, what were the things that were high on their list of improvements. And that's why you saw some people said, oh, I want more audiovisual equipment in the cafeteria. I want new floors. I want curtains. That all went into a giant list that then was presented to the board that these are the things that we're going to put. And then we put it on the pamphlet to be approved by the voters. And so it's a combination of district identifying needs, community input on what is important to them. The trees are part of what came out of that because the trees were something that community kept, and shade structures was something community frequently found as a need. So that's one of the areas that the district did invest. And then energy efficiency has been something that's continued to come up both through our principals, through district need, and then our community as well. So that's working in the pictures that he showed to close the building envelope, which means not letting heat escape or in the wintertime and not letting cool air escape in the summertime, but also conversely not letting warm air come in the summertime. So that's been a big part of that. And now Ms. Sims is working with us in making sure that all of these pieces are coming together. You want to add?
Just wanted to add a piece. This was important to us during the reimagine process. When we spoke to staff, we had them prioritize all. And so that also goes into consideration. And then also our community forums where we heard from the community and from staff, again, what were priorities to them so that we can then look at the budget and see what we're able to afford.
Cool. I guess I'm just asking because I'm seeing, repetitive schools getting upgrades and renovations. And then I'm seeing schools just getting like necessary renovations. So I just want to make sure that there's equity in the process, me. And so, yeah, I just wanted to ask those questions.
Also,
And that's an important thing for us all to know because as we go out for an additional bond, we're trying to spend this one down. The schools that haven't had the big renovations would be the next on those lists. But that's down the road.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item E2, our receive and discuss the parent notification and permission process for Southwest Behavioral Services. Welcome, Mrs. Baumgartner.
Good evening, President Trujillo, governing board members, Superintendent Gonzalez, and cabinet. It is my pleasure to present to you today about Phoenix #1 and our partnership with Southwest Behavior. A couple of things before I start is a disclaimer. We already had a lot of talk about mental health. We had a lot of sensitive talk. And so when we embark on these conversations, I want to have you pay attention to your own emotional reactions. This can be personally activating for you, and I just want each of you in this room, our community members, and people that might be watching online to pay attention to that and to know that there's support out there if you need. When we talk about mental health, well, no, I still need the other slide. I'm not ready for that next slide just yet. So first, my name is Dawn Baumgartner, and I oversee the social work services and the social services in our district. I wanted to explain to you what the credentials after my name mean. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. A lot of times people don't understand what that means and they're not familiar with it. We're very familiar with a PhD, but a licensed clinical social worker has received a master's in social work, sat for a licensing exam to be a licensed master social worker, then worked for 3 years under clinical supervision of an LCSW, and then sat for another exam to become an independently licensed practitioner. So that's a lot of years of dedication, and I just want that to be acknowledged. Sometimes social work seems like, oh, anybody can be a social worker, and it's just not accurate. I also would be remiss if I didn't talk about 9/11. So I thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for bringing that up. I'm going to do my best not to get teary-eyed. 9/11, I had recently graduated from Columbia University in New York City, and it was my very first job as a social work professional in a school. And it was 2 days in, and 9/11 happened. I worked in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. If anybody knows anything about New York City, that is the first point of contact. If you are leaving New York City over the Manhattan Bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge. And so people were fleeing and they came to the school where I was at. Parents came to the school where I was, and we worked tirelessly to take care of our community, to connect our students with their families. And it really started my passion for this work. I knew I wanted to be in schools, but what I didn't know was how effective these types of partnerships can be. I spent that year at that school. Following that, I created partnerships with FEMA and community-based organizations and schools to work directly with children, youth, and families that were deeply impacted by 9/11. So this work is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've done, if you can do the math, for 24 years. I'm getting a little bit old. Now that the hardest part of my presentation is over, I'm going to take a deep breath. Now we can get to the next slide. Thanks. So school districts and behavioral health organizations, this is an evidence-based model that is utilized across the nation. This isn't unique to Arizona, and it isn't unique to Phoenix Elementary School District. If you were able to explore, I did link the Arizona Board of Education website and their guidance that they created through Project Aware and their resource guide. They work collaboratively with Access, which is the Arizona Healthcare Containment System, along with mental health professionals to create this guidance. So why do we have these types of partnerships? It's really important that we consider that we're all servicing the same children, and sometimes having one point of contact is our best case scenario. What I've learned over the many years of working with schools and community-based organizations and behavioral health is that families trust schools. And oftentimes they are the first point of contact that a family will go to and will request services, or they will feel comfortable enough to share the challenges that they're having with their student. And that takes a lot of vulnerability. These partnerships allow us to access very easily the behavioral health services in the school setting. We want to do everything that we can to remove barriers for our families, and having these services, especially when families are working, having them available at our schools really helps support getting our students' needs met. I want to touch on some of the relevant statutes and legislation that is unique to Arizona. First, I want to touch on the Mitch Warnock Act. This is legislation that essentially tells schools that we are going to educate our staff on the warning signs and what to do for students, how to refer and get the supports in place that are needed for students that might be experiencing suicidal ideation. This saves lives. I had the pleasure, as I said, I've been at this a long time, and I've had the pleasure of meeting with the family member that actually brought this to the legislators and saw all of the advocacy that he went through on behalf of his own family to do what's right for other families. In our district, I just want to acknowledge that we follow this legislation and we take it very seriously. The next two, the mental health screening consent and consent for parent required for mental health screening, those are also legislation that are extremely important. They dictate for us that we need to get consent from families before we engage in screening or surveying our students, especially as it relates to mental health. And as you'll see later in my presentation, that's really just good practice. That's ethical practice. We all, social workers, abide by a national social work code of ethics. And in that code of ethics, we have to engage our parents of minors. So what you want to really talk about is the referral and how that happens. And we have several steps to that process. Step one, a student is identified as having signs and symptoms or behaviors indicative of mental health concern. It's typically brought to the site social worker and/or an administrator. The social worker will receive information, and oftentimes this information is coming straight from a parent. Other referral sources is sometimes a student comes to an adult in the building or a school staff member. We'll gather that information, and our initial response is to reach out and get in touch with the parent, guardian, or caretaker. Step two is the parent guardian is provided information about behavioral health services. If they're interested, we provide referrals to community organizations as well as Southwest Behavioral Health. It's really important to acknowledge, and I do a lot of education in our schools as well as around the state, that our parents at any point have the right to say that that is not what they want for their child. And we respect that. They are the expert of their child. And if they at any point in this process would want to terminate their services or not engage in services, that is 100% their right. So if they do agree that they would like to have a referral to our specific partnership in the school-based setting, that's when we refer to our Southwest Behavior. It requires verbal permission at that point. The referral doesn't go into a lot of detail. That is for the family to share with the provider when they are reached out in step 3 by the Southwest Behavioral Health provider. So at that point, step 3, Southwest has just very limited information, but knows that the parent has been informed and agrees to the referral. And Southwest then calls to schedule an intake. In the behavioral health system, an intake can be a fairly cumbersome process. And so it's really important to know that sometimes we make referrals and they don't go through an intake process. But when they do, the first step is an informed consent. And then the behavioral health creates a treatment plan of what they're working on. And at that point, the parent has the right to sign a release of information. If they sign the release of information, then on the Southwest side, they can share information with the school. And the school also needs a release of information to share information. It's a two-way street. Just like if you were going to a doctor. When you go to a doctor, I just took my daughter, so I know in the packet, there's a release of information and it says, would you allow us to share information with? And you have to identify who is allowed to be a part of their treatment. And it's the same for behavioral health. Next, I just thought it was important to zoom out and to talk about the governing body for social workers and mental health professionals. This is the Arizona Board of Behavioral Health Examiners. They establish and maintain standards and qualifications. This is who licenses as well as takes any complaints against mental health providers. And Article 11, standards of practice, that's where they outline the consent for treatment. And when we're working, especially with minors, as we are in our school district, there must be legal consent from a parent before any treatment is able to happen. And the parent has the right to renege that at any point in treatment. So in closing, I just wanted to thank you for hearing about our partnership and the work that we do. These partnerships are vitally important for our children, our youth, and our families. And I, I fully believe that they save lives in our school district. Do I ask for questions?
Do we have any questions?
I have one question. So in the intake process, if the parent agrees, well, say the referral didn't come from the parent, say the referral came from a teacher. But I suppose in either case, once the intake happens, is the billing arrangement between, the Southwest Behavioral Health and the parent and their insurance
Correct.
directly?
Correct.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Baumgartner. With that, I would like to move that we adjourn to executive session. Sorry, do we have a second?
This is Erica, and I second.
Board Member Ovalle,
Aye.
Board Member Edmiston,
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye. With that, we will adjourn at 6:20 to executive session here. I don't anticipate being longer than 30 minutes to an hour to meet with our attorney. No voting will take place. Anything of that nature will be done when we come back out. Thank you to whoever decides to stay. See you soon. All right, the time is 7:20. We'd like to resume to regular session. Mrs. Ship, would you like us to do a motion for this?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we resume to regular session at 7:20. Do we have a second?
This is Erica and I second.
Thank you, Kyle. May we please have a roll call?
Board Member Ovalle,
Aye.
Board Member Edmiston,
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye. With that, our motion passes and we will resume to regular session and move on to item G1. Yikes, I don't know how to proceed with this. Is Ed still here? Okay. Let's see. Well, it's an action item for us to direct him, and I feel like he just updated us. Okay, so we're gonna skip item G1 and move on to item G2.
Yeah, so in the executive session, we received information, but there's no direct action as a result. So we're
Perfect,
okay
okay.
to skip that.
That's all. I just wanted to state what would be important. So thank you very kindly. Let's actually move on to item G3, our receive, discuss, and consider our approval of board goal number 1. The floor is yours, Dr. G.
So in looking at board goal number 1, as a reminder, this is at this time of year in our monitoring calendar, we're looking at the interim goals that are going to help us achieve our larger goal, goal 1. And at the beginning of the year, we set our interims with baseline data. So we're looking at baseline data. We'll look at this data again in January to continually monitor how our students are doing across this time. And at that time, we'll be able to show whether we're on track or whether we're falling off. But at every one of these turns, you're going to see we have teams of people here who are going to present from our curriculum team. We have 2 of our outstanding principals who were very, very, very proud of the work that they've been doing and the gains that their students and teachers are getting as a result. So in goal 1, we're looking at our early literacy, and then later on this evening, we're going to look at goal 4, which is our middle years literacy. And we do that intentionally because these are 2 goals that build on each other. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Ailshire.
And good evening, Madam President, to our wonderful board, our phenomenal cabinet, our incredible community. Thank you all so much for being here and sticking around for the data portion of the evening. So, I'm going to really try and check myself because we've got some really great speakers to really highlight the work that's being done, and I think we're always in for an incredible treat when we have the people that are leading the work being able to speak to the work and being able to do that. So I want to introduce Dr. Lloyd to come on up, our wonderful data whisperer, who will kind of walk us through some of the graphs, and then really be highlighting what is working and what are our challenges coming directly from our instructional leaders that we're seeing some of the greatest gains over at Edison and over at Bethune. So thank you, Dr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Dr. Ailshire. Thank you, President Bueno, and members of the board and community here today. I'm going to go ahead and get us going. This is our initial slide that just shows what our goal is for this year for the overall goal for the board goal, which is to move from 27% of our 3rd graders passing the ASA to 31%. And you can see the breakdown by subgroups over on the right-hand side. And at this time, I don't have a projection based on our fall benchmark. Sometimes I have one. I am working on an analysis to correlate some of our oral reading fluency data with potential projection for where we might be in the spring. But today we're really focused on providing you with an update on where we are at based on our benchmarks. So this year for our grades K through 3, we're using the Aimsweb Plus Early Literacy Benchmark Screener. And so that's what we're presenting today is the percent of students who either are really on track, we're calling, with their literacy. So the idea of a screener is just like when you go into the doctor, right? We're trying to determine the health of an individual and whether or not there's going to be any problems in the future. And in this case, we're looking at whether or not there would be any problems with their reading. So this is the percent of students that we're saying that's on track, those who we feel like are on the right trajectory with their reading. One thing you'll notice, let's look first at that line graph. And we're looking, the first 4 points are our falls from this year and the prior 3. And you can see it kind of went up and down and up. And then this fall, there's a big jump. So I want to talk about that jump, that huge increase. And that isn't something that you're going to see often. The reason why it happened is because our ruler changed. So when I'm going to give you an analogy. When you go into the doctor and your child gets checked for their height, usually they have like a growth scale and they say, oh, your child's average height, for their age, their average height. Well, in reading, we have the same thing. We take a national population and we say, based on where you're reading, you're average and you're doing all right with your reading. The data that was being used prior to this fall was based on pre-COVID years, right? And so a different population, a different time. And so the Ameswood Plus Pearson just updated it. So now we have a different, what's called a different norm that we're comparing to. So I'll give one example. In our first grade, last year, if a student read 29 words per minute at the beginning of the year, they were considered at and above grade level with their oral reading fluency. This year, the norm is 13 words per minute at the beginning of the year, based on that national sample across. So that's quite a bit of a change, which is why you see this jump. One important thing that we recognize because of this is that we need to focus and ensure everybody is very clear about students' scores, right? And where we want scores to be. So Ms. Caitlin Fagan does a lot of this work. She's our reading assessment support specialist. She's not here today. She's with family, but she's already gone through the work to identify what are the scores we still need to maintain, right? Because you're 5 feet tall, we expect you to grow 2 inches still, this year. We don't expect because you're 5 feet tall and now you're in the 60th percentile that you're doing great, right? Like we still expect there to be growth and improvement. And so she's done a good job of already setting what those expectations are based on the score, because the score does stay the same across the years. So that's why we have this large jump. Now, what does it mean in reference to our target that we have? Is our target now becomes a little bit obsolete. So you'll notice our blue line is already way above the star. And most likely when we get to our winter, it'll be even higher, right? We're expecting at least a 3 to 5% improvement from the fall to the winter. We set it at 4%. That's kind of in the middle of that 3 to 5% range. And you do see that we put that over here in our target, right? We're not going to say, oh, it's going to be 40% because we've already surpassed that. So we have updated our targets. You'll see in the yellow in our table that we have for our winter targets to reflect the changes that we've seen because how we're measuring has changed somewhat. I will also say it not just the measure changed or how we're measuring, but also we've added some pieces to it. Not we, but the company that produces this assessment asked us to add some additional things so that we have a more well-rounded screening of the student, right? Rather than it just being on one thing, right? Like just height. Now we're talking height and weight to see the overall, health and fitness of our children. So we added some measures per their recommendation to have a better overall view of our students' reading wellness or health. So I'm going to go to the next slide, which shows our school breakdowns now. And again, you'll see some huge changes, right? From the fall 24-25 to fall 25-26. Bethune, our Bethune principal is here today. She had one of the biggest increases for her first graders coming in this fall. over 60% more of her students are on track based on the new norms. And again, we do expect there to be a 3 to 5% increase from the fall to the winter for each one of our schools, even with being at that higher percentile, because the winter and the spring way of measuring didn't change as much as the fall did, if that makes sense. So we are excited to see some of the improvements, and we do believe there will still be improvements to be had in our winter and spring scores, and we are looking forward to those. Let me just check my notes. I think that's it. What was that?
One of the things that you might notice, because we've had this conversation before about sample size, and when you look at the sample size of Edison and Bethune, those are some of our largest sample sizes in the district. And you look at the growth that they made from the fall 24-25 to fall 25-26. Even with that sample size, and to be able to show that kind of a gain is impressive. And so that's part of why we wanted to make sure that you got to hear from those two schools. And those are coincidentally our two focus schools. So you're going to hear a lot about the inputs that they're doing.
Thank you. Right, and moving on to second grade. So our goal 1.2 is around second grade, again, from our focus schools of Bethune and Edison. And you see again an increase from last fall, 24-25, 28% to 58%, which is already above that target that we had set prior to the norms change, as well as prior to our schools having some shifts, right, in terms of the numbers of students enrolled, and Edison being banded now for K4 instead of K8, and receiving a lot of the Garfield K4 students. So again, we're at 58%, and we hope to increase that by 4% at these two focus schools to 62% by the winter. And that's the target that you see there for all second grade. And then you see the targets for each of the subgroups with more than 10 students as well there. And grade 2, again, most schools, we set the target to 3 to 5%, improving. This, again, I just want to highlight the critical nature of, because the way that it's being measured has changed, we have to make sure that we know our students. We know what their scores mean and what we need to do to continue to improve their scores. Because it's not just about, oh, now they're all magically reading better, right? Like, we just changed how we're measuring them compared to peers. And so we want to make sure that we focus on those scores and the measures, the ways that we know that they're healthy, to make sure that they continue to be healthy now and in future grades, because they don't take this state assessment until third grade, and we don't want to have them get to third grade and everybody thinks they're doing great when in reality their scores aren't where they need to be. So we will continue to focus on that and track their progress. And that's one of the reasons why it's amazing to have Bethune and Edison. My greatest joy in having them here today is because both of them are getting to the student level. They are tracking how students are doing on a weekly basis. They started that last year. They have student data trackers that they're using consistently that inform their collaborative team meetings. So each team that meets on a weekly basis is inputting and has information for how their students are doing on critical measures of success. And being able to identify, from week to week, but also over each week and over time, seeing whether or not students are on track, I think has brought them success and will continue to do that. So they are my data highlights that I have to bring, and I'm excited for them to share more about that. Is there anything else, Dr. Elshare, that we want to share about this before we bring them up?
No, I appreciate. Thank you, Dr. Lloyd. And then again, thank you for the analogy of height and weight and all of the things that help kind of make some of the, when we start talking about these assessments and when we talk about changing norms and all of these things, these are complicated facets. So thank you, Dr. Lloyd, for working to make sure that I could understand it. I needed it. So it's appreciated. And so I do want to bring in the one of the highlights of this evening is Principal Sells and Principal Fuentes. They're going to talk a little bit about, what is working and what needs more attention. And the reason why we wanted to bring them up is because we don't just pull these concepts out of the air, right? We want to make sure, as Dr. Lloyd pointed out, with the support teams and the work that our academic leadership teams are doing, we're trying to be as embedded into the schools as possible to really see like the schools that make this type of growth for the students that really need it the most. What are the things that they're doing? And so I'm just really honored to work alongside these phenomenal professionals. They have been, we're at year 4 for Principal Sells, year 5 over for Principal Fuentes. It takes a while to create this level of change. And so it's something that they've been working tirelessly for. So we're just thrilled to have them, and I'm going to be quiet so they can talk about the work that they've been doing.
Good evening. I am Claron Sills, the proud principal of Bethune. Madam President, Governing Board, Dr. Gonzalez, and Cabinet. There was a couple of things that we were very strategic about last year. Because we were an early literacy school, we made literacy a school-wide goal for everyone because reading is the foundation of everything that we do. A couple of years ago, the district gave us the opportunity to take letters, and that is a professional training about the science of reading. And so I made it mandatory for all of my teachers, K-8, anybody that taught ELA, along with myself, and we took the 2-year training of letters to ensure that all of my teachers were trained to meet the needs of our kids. It's been a long time since a lot of us have been in school, and sometimes we forget some things. And so the opportunity for us to take letters was an amazing thing. One of the things was a highlight for me is because I was taking it with my staff, I understood what they were going through. I understood what they were talking about, and then seeing that play out in evaluations and walkthroughs, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because it's different when you're taking it, but when you get to see it in action with your own students. So that was one of the things that I thought really gave us our bang for our buck. And then we also had structured weekly CTMs. And with that, it used to be that we had grade level chairs who ran them. I stole the idea from my partner over here at Edison. We had CTMs on Tuesdays. They were an hour long. We made sure that we had specials to cover that. And at the table was admin, our exceptional student services for our SPED students. We had our interventionists, our EL interventionists, our master teacher, our reading interventionist. Everybody was at the table, and even social workers, so that we could get down to the nitty-gritty of looking at our data. We do track data. We track them weekly, and they are color-coded. So when a student, say for example, I was really good at adding and subtracting, and then we moved to division, and all of a sudden there's a loss. So my chart goes from green to red or green to yellow. We were able to pinpoint what was happening and then pull in the interventionist for small groups in the classroom. And then with that, we also did weekly planning. So after we dig through the data and figured out what was happening, what wasn't happening, okay, now let's plan. Let's do some backwards planning, looking at our assessments, and then working backwards to make sure we met the needs of our students. We also had a lot of coaching cycles. We had our partnership with Maricopa County School Superintendent Office. I used to call it Makisa because that's what it was. We had a learning acceleration specialist on campus that helped to make sure all of my teachers had strategies that were research proven to help make kids learn, and they made gains for more than a year of growth when we use these strategies in our classrooms. We had our master teachers doing coaching cycles along with myself. I didn't do as many. But also my assistant, my IEIS, did cycles as well. So really meeting teachers where they are and helping to build their skills was one of the important things that we tackled last year. Something that we need to work on more is differentiated PD. We realized that because of the years of service that some of our teachers had and just their experience, that we needed to be more intentional about what we train them on. And so this year we are doing a lot more differentiated PD, whether it's K-3 literacy or 4-8 math or writing. So, and we're also getting teachers to lead it. We're using our exemplar teachers on campus to do PD. You're in there, you're doing it. Why not share that workload for our staff and make it easier with that? And then also just more classroom observations. Sometimes that becomes a challenge for me, getting in classrooms, but I have a team that also does observations, and we give everybody a playbook like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is how you can do it. let's talk about it, let's work through it, I'll see it. Oh, you're doing really great. So we give them glows and grows and then a question for them to ponder and think about. And we bring that back to our CTMs so that whatever we saw or didn't see, people are able to explain what was happening or even get some assistance from a colleague. We always say 4 ears are better than 2. So we always try to work together and make sure that we're building that collaborative team effort across our campuses.
I don't know all the cute phrases that Claron does, but I'll try. Good evening, board president, board members, cabinet. Um, for our site at Edison, there was a really big culture shift when I came to Edison, which was a struggle. But over the last 4 years, we have really worked at building our leadership team, which is admin, it's grade level teachers, special area teachers. It's about 15 people on our campus who every year have come together to really define what academics and what instruction looks like on our campus. We've created year by year and we've gone and it's been a working document. And it's really helped build the culture of what should every classroom look like on our campus. And I think this year we really highlighted that a lot of things need to be the same. Because when everything is the same, the cognitive load can be focused on the instruction and not on the routines, because no matter where they are on our campus, it's the same. And with that, we also implemented the collaborative team meetings. And last year, we were very intentional. We had a new curriculum. And so we spent a lot of our time diving into HMH as teams and doing the planning. And we made sure to include all of our team. That was our English language interventionist, our reading interventionist, all of admin was there. Our special education team was there. We're also the home of some amazing self-contained programming as well. And it just, even to this year, our amazing special area teams are all in on really supporting our language goals and supporting our English language learners in every classroom. And so I think it was a culture shift. I also have a dedicated team of educators who love children and are here for children, and that makes a huge difference. We also did letters for 2 years as an entire staff. It's something that I'm very passionate about, currently taking letters for administrators as well. And it's something that really supports those goals and understanding why structured literacy, why routines, and all of that is important to outcomes. The other piece that I would say is that we've implemented some data chats with families. I actually spent last week reading every Ames Web report and iReady report for K4 because I hosted a literacy coffee chat this past week where every family that showed up, they got their scores, they got to learn about how to read them, and they got to take home activities that we taught them how to use to continue the learning beyond the classroom. And I had a parent today who told me about how much fun they were having with them. So there's a lot of pieces that come into this, and it's a big team. It's a team of teachers, it's a team of interventionists, our MTSS facilitator, instructional, our IEIS, the assistant principal role, who all eyes on deck, and then tracking kiddos. So we have these forms. I can look at a classroom and I can see a child if they're failing their assessments week after week, their color changes. I can see the patterns if they're 1 week passing, the next week they're not. And so all of that really helps us to track who are the students we need to have eyes on, what are the interventions we're going to do to support them. And then what needs more attention, continuing to really focus on the professional development, ensuring that it's really targeted to meeting our goals and to supporting the educators in the classroom and the students that are in the classroom. So continuing that aspect, really listening and hearing from teachers of what they need. And then I would say the other piece is just continuing that ongoing feedback. My goal is that as we continue to build this dream team is that feedback and collaboration and instructional cycles that we're currently doing right now become so natural that any moment can become a coaching cycle. If I walk into a classroom, I want to build that capacity of we are just going to jump in where we need and we're going to do because I might have an expertise in one area, the interventionist might, and it's that culture that we built where we trust each other because it's about the outcomes of our children and doing what's best for kids. So thank you guys so much for your time.
So that takes us through our goal monitoring for our interim goals 1.1 and 1.2. Are there any questions about those? We didn't have questions on that one submitted beforehand, but are there board member questions?
Just a comment. I commend you both on all your hard work. You're dealing with kids who don't usually get the time and the attention. And so thank you so much for putting care, love, and everything else these kids need so they can grow. I still haven't been to your school. I've been at Bethune. I know that you're doing everything you can. I could tell by both of your guys' energies that you love kids and you bring that to the school. So I just thank you both so much for your hard work, and it is not unnoticed. So thank you.
Thank you both for coming here and making time to share and give us a good idea of what it looks like on the ground at your guys' school, implementing this work and being focused on our goals. And it just means the world to me. So I don't have any questions. There are more my questions are more geared towards after we hear all of the data tonight. So I'm ready to move on if everybody else is. With that, I move that we approve our monitoring report for goal 1. Do we have a second?
This is Erica, and I second.
Thank you. May we please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Ovalle,
Aye.
Board Member Edmiston,
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye. With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to item G4 to discuss our monitoring report for board goal number 4.
So now this is goal 4, and this is where we did have some questions submitted by President Trujillo. But again, I'm going to take us back to our overarching goal for goal 4. This is middle years literacy. And so this is moving our students from a 31% pass rate on the AASA from August 2023 to 44% by August of 2028. And so you'll also notice when we get to our interim goals on the next page, here's the overarching goal, and you can see the trajectory that we've been going on with this goal. We've really struggled and have kind of flatlined. You can see in 24-25, we did not hit our target. That's why those areas are shaded in red. But one of the things that we are really trying to attend to is what happened to the students who are now our 8th graders, and as we look further on, our students who are 6th and 7th, what was going on developmentally in the years that we were experiencing the shutdown. And there's recently been a report from the National Assessment of Educational Progress that shows the students who were impacted by the COVID shutdown are still struggling to catch up. The gap is not decreasing, it's actually increasing. And so we have to keep thinking about what did they lose in that period of time when they were out of school, and how do we make up for that? And so our presentation this evening is really going to take a look at that. And I'm going to turn it back over now to Dr. Lloyd to talk us through the similar sort of data that we see from goal 1, but now we're looking at it for our middle years literacy.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. So yeah, it's been a bit of a yo-yo, as you can see in our line graph, going up and down, and we're hopeful that it will go up this year. The projections that we currently have suggest that we could have a modest gain. I think we at this point, based on our projections, we would not hit the 38%. That's a fairly large gain, but we do hope to go up this year. Again, a shout out to some of our schools at Bethune. One of the things that they've done is they've taken into consideration the fact that they have a majority of their students who are missing some of those foundational skills. And so they've started, as she said, across the entire school, and that's across all grade levels, to address some of those needs. So our team here tonight will share more about some of those things that we're doing to address those, but I am hopeful, but I do want to temper expectations a little bit. An 8-point gain in 1 year is a lot, and that's not what we're projected to do at this point in time. In terms of our interim goals, you can see that in terms of where we're at compared to prior years, we are slightly above last year's fall. And one item I want to bring your attention to with this is that in this case, we are looking at the same cohort of students. So when we're talking about where they are this fall compared to last fall, we're talking about in 6th grade, 8% of the students at the focus schools, Garfield and Whittier, are on grade level with their reading. And last fall, as 5th graders, 7% were on grade with their reading. And in 4th grade, 15% were on grade with their reading. So we are following that same year across for this interim to try and ensure that we're making a difference for that same cohort as they move up in their grades. You'll see one of the things that you might notice from fall to winter, that's a 23-point difference. So we'd have to improve quite a bit. Last year, we did not make the improvement, and so that's compounded somewhat. And at this point, this interim and the target that we have has become unfeasible. Part of that is what happened last year, but also what's happened with closing schools and restructuring schools. We have different students at different schools, especially these two that we're talking about, right? We're looking just at Garfield and Whittier. Garfield, which is now a 5-8 school, and Whittier, which now receives a large portion of the students from Emerson and has a larger middle school that they are working to develop and support. And so these schools have changed since we made this goal and since we set this interim. And so I am showing what the target is on this slide. But as we go to the next slide and we're looking at schools, you can see a feasible target that we've set for this year, because although we'd love for them to have surpassed this goal that we set 2 years ago, at this point in time with the changes that have happened, we are focused on a feasible goal, a smart goal that we know can be accomplished during this period of time. And so for most school, that's a 5 to 10% improvement from fall to winter. So for Garfield and Whittier, we've set a target of 10%, which is still a high goal because we're just talking about getting to the halfway point of the year, right? And trying to improve at least 10%. 5% historically is what many of our schools will do from fall to winter. So that's why you see the other schools that are not the target schools that don't have all of the same focus and resources. We expected a normal improvement of about 5% from fall to winter for those other schools. So that is goal 4.1. Goal 4.2, you see a similar type of change. We do see our 7th graders, when they're in 6th grade, we had 14% on grade. And when they're in 6th grade, when they were in 6th grade, we had a 14% on grade. When they were in 5th grade, they had 16, and now as 7th graders, 11%. So that is not the trajectory that we're hoping. But again, even though it's the same year of students, it's a different group. We now have 104 versus last year when we were looking at this, it was more like 80 students, right? So we know we're dealing with more students and we're dealing with bigger middle years classes and groups. And so that's going to have some differences in the challenges that they face. We do think that this is more of there's some possibility that we could still reach this goal, right? It's about a 10% gain, which is what we would expect with a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus and additional resources. And so here you see in our targets, it's 11%, but we hope to go to 22%. And that is what we are going to shoot for with our targets for Garfield and Whittier. Garfield currently is at 11%, and we hope they can get improved by 10%, and Whittier is 12%, and we hope that they can improve by at least 9%. And we're working towards that. And even though that is a stretch goal for them, that's something they're going to have to work hard to achieve with the proper focus and resources, which we'll talk more about. we do believe that could be achieved this year. And this is what's working, what needs more attention. Dr. Ailshire, do you want to speak to this more?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lloyd. And I'm also going to go ahead and have Dr. Coletti, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, as well as Ms. Goldberg, our specialist for ELA and Humanities, come up too, so that they can kind of help fill in some of the blanks. These are our experts in the field as well. And again, just as we've done with our colleagues over at Bethune and Edison, we wanted to kind of dial in deep with our colleagues over at Garfield and over at Whittier. And as Dr. Lloyd pointed out, we are dealing with a very different demographic at those schools than when we started these goals, but asking them, what are the things that they believe to be working and what are the things that they really believe needs more attention. And so I really want to differentiate in terms of some of the terms that we've got in here, because I know they can kind of be confusing. And I can speak to it, or did you two prepare? I'll speak a little bit to it, and then you guys can go ahead and step in, and then we have some questions from some of our board, from our board president that we want to make sure that we address as well. So in regards to what is working, one of the things that we knew that we need to establish is that within the master schedules, we need to make sure that these schools, and all of our schools for that matter, had an embedded intervention time that they were really setting aside in the day, every day, for students to be getting those foundational skills that Dr. Gonzalez spoke to that were missing. What we don't want to do is remediate students so that we're only giving them those foundational stuff. They still need to have access to grade level content. So how do we then embed that in the day? And so we've worked really, really hard with the instructional minutes and our master schedules. You would not believe the lift from our team and from MIS and everyone and our principals, because they know it's a chess game too, to try and create these master schedules that would allow that embedded intervention time. So we've got that part in there, and we'll talk a little bit about how we can strengthen that in a minute. The other thing you're going to hear a lot of our schools talking about this year is the consistent focus on writing. Whether it's Lowell or Bethune or Edison, all of our schools are really taking the time to really look at the ways writing is embedded in the curriculum and really embedded in it. Some of that is in thanks to our newly adopted curriculum, which puts a much larger emphasis on that, but also just making sure that it's something that's really practical and front of mind. It's not something that we've been focusing on in the past, and we believe that focusing on those writing skills and providing that regular structured writing instruction practice for our students will have those positive outcomes. And then also, again, going to the consistent use of district adopted resources and curriculum materials. Principal Fuentes spoke to this about the need to really give our teachers time to dig into this new curriculum. We just adopted that HMH curriculum last year. It takes a while to really learn it and understand it. It was a really well-vetted curriculum that is very, very, we were just talking about that today, very popular with our teachers. If you go in and walk our classrooms, which we always encourage everyone to do, you'll see that they are really using this curriculum with fidelity. And that's critically important to us. It goes back to what Principal Fuentes was saying about that consistency. You want to walk into every classroom and they're using that same material, because you don't want to have that lottery system of like, well, they're going to use the curriculum, but this one over here, they're not going to use the curriculum. And you're going to see very different outcomes for those different students just based on where they're placed. So making sure that we are providing that training and the use of those resources. Now, what needs more attention, and I appreciate President Trujillo, you kind of pointed out this, and reading between the lines on this, was you kind of have this in both areas, right? You got targeted reading support, but then you say it's also something that needs instruction. While we have now embedded the time in the master schedule, that was step one, we need to now make sure that we've got the actual resources in that time, so it doesn't just become something like homework help, where you come in and just kind of work on whatever you need to work on. We really want to make sure it's structured, right? And so that is a very different thing. You can see a lot of different schools say, well, yeah, we have intervention time, cool, but what are the students doing? Is it structured? Is it meeting their needs, or is it just simply homework help, right? So that's something that we really need to be focusing on. My team over here is going to be talking a lot about the intervention resources that we're now bringing to bear, because that has been something that has been woefully inadequate when we talk about middle school students specifically. And then teacher and leader development, strengthening coaching and support for our school leaders. Principal Fuentes and Principal Sells talked a lot about this, but really, again, we talked about this a lot, I believe last year and even at the beginning of this year, of how do we support the new teachers that are coming in here and providing them with those extra support so that we can build those leaders that we're going through. We've been doing a phenomenal job of our hiring and retention, thanks to our phenomenal HR department, but we now need to build them up. And then finally, student engagement and family support. Again, I it's wonderful to have principals talk about it before. That APTT model, that model that Principal Fuentes talked about of bringing families in, showing them how to set goals with their kids, showing them how to look at the graph, look at the data. That's exactly the type of work we need all of our schools doing, and it really, as we see, is paying outcomes. So those are some things that we know at the 1,000-mile view that we are going to be working on and working towards. But I also want to make sure there were some really great in-depth questions by President Trujillo that Dr. Galetti and Ms. Goldberg are going to be kind of addressing right now.
Good evening, President Trujillo, Governing Board, Dr. Gonzalez, and Cabinet. Thank you for the opportunity to share some responses today. I'm going to start us out, and then I'm going to turn it over to Erin, who will provide you a little more details regarding some of the middle years and how the resources and how our teachers are utilizing those. So the first question is, in looking at the upward trending data in our early years and also at the low percentages in our middle school years, I wonder how aligned is or are the curriculum for our early years grades and our middle school grades, and is that important for transitions? So as we are thinking about this, it's not so much an issue with the curriculum. The curriculum is definitely aligned. But one thing that we've realized, and Dr. Ailshire already has spoken to a little bit, is historically we know that interventions typically have happened in the K-3 space. And so that's something that we've recognized that we needed to change. So building that intervention time directly into the master schedule so that every single day students are getting some support with the areas with reading and literacy that they really need has been really important for us. He also mentioned it's what we're doing with that time. And that's where we're also bringing in those additional resources. So I'm going to have Erin share a little bit about those, which I think is going to bring us into the next question as well. But we brought in last year 2 resources specifically designed to support those foundational literacy skills for upper grade teachers. So we piloted 2 of them. We found success with both, and she'll be talking about those in just a moment. But they really focus on some of those skills that they may have missed during those COVID years. So we're going back and making sure that we're providing that level of support with the multisyllabic words, and how to read those, put those together so that they really can develop that comprehension. So I'm going to have Erin, I'm going to move us to the next question because I think these 2 are tied together, because this next question is about those interventions and what we have in place for students that are entering into middle school that leadership understands are already behind. And so for our current 8th graders. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin so she can talk about that.
Hi, President Trujillo, board members, cabinet, Dr. Gonzalez. I'm here to talk a little bit about what we've been working on to increase our reading interventions in our middle grades and our middle school classrooms. Like Dr. Galetti said, historically, reading intervention has stopped at 3rd grade when reading struggles continue on. So we always like to say reading struggles don't magically end in 3rd grade, and we still need to be supporting those students with their reading gaps. So what we did last year is we piloted 2 different reading programs that are supportive of middle grades literacy. So we had 95% group, which is something that we've been using in our district for a long time. The 95% group specifically was the multi-syllabic routine cards. So those are really focusing on building the foundational skills of syllable types, vowels, vowel teams, providing that learning that our students might have missed due to COVID. And then starting with that and then moving into rewards, which is an intervention program that is specifically built for middle school learners. So it is built for 4th through 12th grade. We have rewards intermediate in our 4th through 6th grade classrooms. And then we have rewards secondary, which is what we're using in our 7th and 8th grade. Those are built to support students with multisyllabic. So learning how to really break apart big words so that they're able to fluently read. So it's really focusing on strategies for them to do that. And then it also has them practicing so that they become more fluent readers, which then builds comprehension. So we looked at both of these programs. What we found is they are both going to be really important for supporting our students. So there's not one or the other that's better. They're both going to be really working in all of our classrooms. So if you went into a classroom and you saw this instruction, it's very systematic, and a teacher could be leading a small group, they could be doing a whole group. They're very easy to replicate. So that was something that we wanted to make sure that we had, was something that was easy for all teachers to be implementing. And it's just engaging, and it keeps a perky pace, so we keep our middle school students engaged.
And in addition to that, it builds their confidence. And so, and I think that's the most important thing, is it's building their reading confidence, they're feeling good, and they're enjoying reading, and it makes them want to read and want to participate more in class in all ways. So that's another great benefit. In looking at our next question, what can we share about the literacy instruction for middle school? How engaging or tied to students' interests and choices is it? And I'm going to have Erin talk a little bit about our HMH curriculum that you've heard a little bit about, because she does a lot of work directly with the teachers in not only training them and supporting them with implementing this, but also just, you plan with them and train with, she's very involved in this. So she knows all about it.
So I love this question, and Dr. Gonzalez touched on this earlier. If you walked into our middle school classrooms, you would see them implementing this program. HMH into Literature, which is our program for 7th through 8th grade, has extremely engaging texts that are relevant to our students. Our teachers enjoy teaching these lessons, and there's the upcoming 8th grade unit that I hear about all the time is their horror unit. So they're going to be reading a bunch of creepy stories, just like all middle schoolers love to do. They are high interest. They are very complex texts, which is getting them ready for high school. And a big component of the program is while they are reading, they are annotating and practicing these complex skills that they need to be building to be successful in high school and beyond. So it's building these standards-based skills within the text as they're going. It's also building their comprehension as well. Within the program, there's also different scaffolds that are geared towards all students. So they might be working on understanding theme, and they can watch a peer coach video with one of their peers where they're getting coached about that specific skill that they can then practice within their text. And then the other part of this is it's not just about the program. The one thing that site leaders and our teachers have been really eager for is training specific towards their skill set. So you heard Ms. Sells and Mr. Fuentes talking about letters. A big thing that we've embarked on this year is a program called AIMS Pathways, which we like to call Letters for Secondary Teachers. So we have our focus school teachers, 6th and 7th grade teachers, really focusing on that learning right now. They're going through it this entire year. We actually have a partnership with Valley Leadership, and they are coming in providing sub coverage for our teachers on Wednesday, so we can come together and collaborate and do the work together, talk about it, and then we meet with a consultant who kind of guides us through a practicum. And we've had our first session 2 weeks ago, and we've gotten really good feedback. Our teachers are very excited about this opportunity. It's teaching them, even if you went to school to learn about secondary ELA, you're going to miss a lot of the foundational literacy practice because it's not embedded as much as it is in elementary education prep. So they're really getting that learning, but so that it's developmentally appropriate for their students. And that's really what our whole goal is, so that they can support their students.
We talk about, and to go back to Brandt's, Dr. Lloyd's, doctor analogy, we talk about sometimes teachers becoming diagnosticians so that they're able to diagnose the challenges that students might have with reading. And so the training that she's describing is helping our middle grade teachers to be able to figure out exactly what students need so that they can help to support them right where they're at with that intervention. In addition to that training, there's also training on the curriculum itself. Erin's very involved in that. We have consultants from the company still supporting us with implementation of that this year. And then we have coaches that are also supporting teachers with planning using those curriculum resources. So really that job embedded approach, both with the foundational piece and also with the curriculum, and also a lot of writing professional development as well, not just in ELA, but also, as Dr. Ailshire had mentioned, across all content areas so that students are practicing those skills regardless of whether they're in science or social studies or whatever classroom it might be. So our next question, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lloyd.
Well, maybe. I want to quickly clarify, President Trujillo, when you're asking about using iReady, were you speaking to the iReady diagnostics, the assessments? Okay. Then yeah, it's my question. So this year we are starting with reading. We use the iReady diagnostic in grades 4 and use it through grades 8. We use AimsWeb Plus in grades K3 as an early literacy screener, in part because the state requires an approved screening tool and progress monitoring tool. And AimsWeb Plus provides both. So it allows us to screen the students, and then we set goals, and we have ways of measuring and seeing if they're on track with specific skills that they need for their grade level relative to where they scored when we screened them. And so the AimsWeb Plus helps us to be able to do that. The iReady is meant to look at how our students are doing compared to grade level standards. And then the nice thing about the diagnostic, it also goes across grade levels. So if a student isn't scoring on grade level, we are still able to capture what level of skills they do have, right, in grades 4 through 8. So that's important because many of our students, as we presented in our retreat or study session, are below grade level. So if we had so there's many benchmark tools that are used that are purely grade level. And all it says at the beginning of the year is, yeah, they don't know the grade level standards. Well, great. We didn't expect them to yet, right? And so this gives our teachers a robust amount of data and the ability to set goals regardless of where they placed. We can set an appropriate goal that says, hey, here's how much the student needs to grow in these areas to move towards grade level proficiency and to be able to be successful with grade level standards. And so that's what we use in our grades 4 through 8 to help track that. The other piece that it has is they've done a lot of work to try and have a correlation so they can say, if a student scores here on the diagnostic, what does that mean in terms of their projection on the state assessment? With a certain level of growth at the beginning of the year, right? So in the fall, we say, well, if they have typical growth, we expect them to be at this proficiency level on the state assessment at the end of the year. So that's another reason why we use a tool like this to help us with those projections and to know where we're likely to be at the end of the year if we have a certain level of growth. Mm-hmm.
Are there any further questions on the progress monitoring for Goal 4?
I have a little one, and it's not something I want to. I'm curious to know. Do our students know that their friends need help reading? I wonder that, like, how many of, I wouldn't have known when I was in grade school, like, which of my friends were struggling, like, and I wonder that because I wonder if there's other little resources that can, I don't know, be put to use to help each other as a group kind of a thing. But again, I get why it's probably not a thing because nobody wants everybody to know what they're struggling with. But I just wonder that, like, when we talk about tracking student data and having those conversations at the coffee talks, that's what popped in my head. Do our students know that about each
One
other?
thing that I would share, and I do think that's an important consideration. I mean, not all of us want other people knowing our business. But one of the things that I think is really important about small group instruction and providing tier one instruction, tier one, everyone is getting it. Tier two, you're getting what you need. And so for some kids, they're going to work in a small group, but they might be working on an extension of learning because they've already got it and they're ready to move at a little faster pace. So what they're getting in that is specific to their needs. And this goes back to that when they're getting an intervention, is it structured to what the student actually needs? So if I'm one of the students who's struggling and I don't have the phonemic awareness, pulling out flashcards and doing flashcards with me, everyone in the room is going to know, oh, Deborah doesn't get it. She's having to do flashcards. So using the developmentally appropriate approach instead allows the student to develop the skill set, but without calling attention by using something that you would expect to see in a primary classroom. And that's why we've been so intentional about creating the intervention times, but also making sure that what they're getting is appropriate for where they are developmentally, both cognitively and emotionally as middle grade kids. Is that? And honestly, I love taking you guys to go see classrooms. Ms. Ovalle knows it's one of my favorite things to do, but to be able to walk into the classrooms and see how the students are interacting. And our students are incredibly generous with each other and eager to help one another. And it's really a remarkable thing. And it reminds us every day of how much learning is a social construct. We learn best when we can talk with our peers and learn together how this works. So it's joyous to see. And I just am so appreciative of the support that our teams are providing and the leadership that our principals are providing. And now that we have our schools consolidated so that we have more teachers at a grade level, the change that we're seeing with our teachers' confidence, because now they're planning with another teacher, they're developing lessons together. It's amazing. I'm so proud of what we're seeing in our schools right now.
And that's what happens in the collaborative team meetings, the CTMs. Got it. Okay.
If your collaborative team is one person, it's hard to do it. But if you've got 2 or 3 people with you, it makes it much better.
And to add to that, with the master schedule and that intervention time with those collaborative teams, they're able to look. So it's not just perhaps my class that I'm providing the interventions to, but maybe I have a same collaborative time with both of these teachers, and we can look at our students together to work together to make sure that all of the students get. So maybe I'm doing something different than Dr. Lloyd, different than Ms. Goldberg, and we're all supporting students. So it gives that opportunity.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I move that we approve our progress monitoring report for board goal number 4. Do we have a second?
This is Erica, and I second.
Thank you kindly. May we please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Ovalle,
Aye.
Board Member Edmiston,
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye. Thank you. With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to item G5. Regarding the progress monitoring report, or I'm sorry, the guardrail monitoring report for guardrail number 1.
I was so excited about the work that our teams just presented. I shut down for a moment. So Superintendent Guardrail number 1, this is a guardrail that says the superintendent shall not allow the district to operate without reciprocal and effective communication between the board, district employees, and community stakeholders. And this is a guardrail that was set in 22 with the former superintendent, but it's a guardrail that I think is important for a district regardless of who the superintendent is, because having a pathway to constantly create reciprocal lines of communication is what strengthens the operations of a district. So when you think about how important this is, I don't ever want to say, well, this was set for somebody else. This is set because this is an ethos that we have as a district of how important it is to be able to hear from our community, to be able to hear from teachers as we're adopting curriculum. And in fact, the other day when I was meeting with the teachers after their math curriculum review, one of the teachers said she'd been in the district for 20 years and there had never been an opportunity for teachers to participate in the selection of the curriculum. And as Sarah or Dr. Galetti was saying, our curriculum team has been coming together and it is made up of teachers. Parents get to come in and be part of that, community members, experts in the area. It is a collaborative process, but that's how we get better products that teachers are using and are excited to use. So when you look at the interims around that notion of how we create reciprocal and effective communication, one of the things that we've talked about is creating more structured and open opportunities to hear from the different constituent groups. If we don't create the structure for it to happen, it's easy for it to get missed or put on the back burner. So in interim guardrail 1.1, it's about creating monthly meeting reports and expanded audiences that are receiving district communications. In interim 1.2, we're still working on creating accessible communication. And by accessible, we mean that it's targeted to specific audiences and it's provided to them in the way that is best received by them. So that means being able to make translations for people who don't have internet access, but have mobile phones, that they're able to get it in a mobile phone way. A mobile phone on a mobile phone. Think about how that looks. So trying to make sure that it's a 14-hour day at this point. So, and then in interim guardrail 1.3, it's about how are we expanding those communications? So you're thinking about our community on a much broader scale, but making sure that we're really reaching out to our families through a variety of different media. And I should say family and community. So when we look at what we're doing currently in interim guardrail 1.1, we've created these different stakeholder groups. And originally we had thought about it strictly as having more community roundtables. And we realized that that's a structure that will work for some, but not for all. So how do we change this? And so we've got community and business partner luncheons that are scheduled 3 times a year. Those are our business partners, but we also have community partners like the people that came and helped support the Night of Inspiration. So how do we create these different groups? We're also doing a legislative group. So inviting our legislators to come and learn about what we're doing in our district, but also learning about the ways that some of the legislation that they might be receiving this year, how does it impact us in real time? And what are some things that we would like for them to consider in serving our populations? We also meet with our employee groups monthly, our teacher association, as well as our professional support staff association. We also have different student groups that we meet with monthly. And next month, we are starting our superintendent's, it used to be called SLAC. It's now the Superintendent's Student Advisory Team. So it's SAT instead of SLAC. But so that will be starting again next month. The schools are finding them and we're expanding that. It used to be 7th and 8th graders. We're now moving to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So we're going to continue to expand that group. Then the community roundtables, those are different community groups. And so far we'll show you some of the groups that we've met with, but also the special interest groups. And then we regularly meet with the City of Phoenix Economic Development Office and the Phoenix Community Alliance. And that's in addition to our meetings with our PTAs or PTOs, our cafecitos, and the site councils at the different schools. So on the next slide, you can see what this looks like. These are face-to-face interactions that we're providing. And then what we do is we also have an opportunity we share an update on the district initiative, on student progress and the vision of the district. But then we also want to make sure that that includes time for us to survey them and to find out from them, what do they look for when we think about a good school? What does a good school look like? And then to think, how do we do a better job? Or how do we invite you to participate and be involved in our school? So what can we do to invite you in? And then finally, what questions or ideas do you have for the district? The next part of that is enlisting community supporters to help improve the program. So like at our business partner luncheon, the end of the question is, where do you fit when we're using our logo this year of one team, one mission? Where do you fit in our team and our mission to help make sure that every child and every family is thriving? And then enlisting more community supporters to advocate for public education across the board, not just in our district, but across our state and nation. In interim guardrail number 2, this is more of getting those targeted communications out to diverse audiences. And so here you see some of the things that we've been doing this year and that have been scheduled. Board president and superintendent video recaps of governing board meetings. We are now known as the coffee chat group. And so I'm looking for really comfy chairs for us to sit in for our coffee chats. But using those videos has helped get a lot of people who aren't able to watch our meetings. They're able to see them in those short bursts on the video recaps, which are really nice. We still do the board meeting updates that are the hard copies that are sent to all, or are the print copies of the board meeting recaps, along with the student celebrations. And we also have been implementing strategies to improve our social media engagement and website hits. And this has been a tremendous lift by our comms team led by Ms. Baker. I'm really excited for you to see the data there. And then really thinking about not just advertising when we're trying to recruit students for enrollment for the next year, but as the cabinet has said repeatedly, we have to be marketing 365 days. So everything we're doing is a marketing push, and then working on cleaning up our website. So Nicole, I'm going to turn it over to you to share the highlights of the things that have already happened this year. And I know this data is already 2 weeks old, so the numbers are even higher than this. But Nicole, take it away.
Good evening, Madam President, our governing board, and our cabinet and community. I am very excited about these. So as we go through, we're making comparisons between last school year and this school year and looking at some of our data. So already our video views, I can already tell you we're getting closer and closer to what we did all of last year, just in the first few months of the school year. So we're really excited about that. And then we're on track on sending out those hard copies of our board recaps. And then even our website views, since we have migrated, have started to uptick. And so with that, one of the new tools that we got was to see our website translation requests. And this is something I'm really excited about because we can now see what languages people are translating our content in, and we can see specifically which parts of the website they're looking at, which is really exciting. So then we know what are the things that are popular, what are some things we maybe need to do something different with when it comes to how we communicate certain information. And then looking at the amount of times we've been in the news, so far we've had 8, and this year we're making more of an effort to do more pitches and tell some of those good news stories. So I'm expecting some great growth in that area. And then looking at our social media engagement, all of these other numbers go into that. And so when it comes to the way people are engaging with our content on social media, we're already seeing about a 33% increase. And then looking at our mailers, so those are when we pull the addresses for all of our district residences, when we're able to send things directly to the mailboxes. This is how many we're able to send. And so far we've done about 40,000.
And then if we look at interim guardrail 1.3, this is about expanding our regular communication to district staff and families through print and digital media. And sometimes some of the hardest converts to make a change are principals who are really used to using something they've been using for the last 15 years. But Nicole and her team have done an amazing job in getting more consistency across the district so that all schools are using the same platform. And I'm going to let her talk about where we're going with this as well, because this is her brainchild and she's getting great starts with this.
My favorite thing about this guardrail is it really allows us to look at what are the different ways we're able to communicate with our staff and with our families. And so one thing we've learned is sometimes it takes several different methods. So you might need a text message and a class dojo and an email. And then you're like, oh yeah, we do have that thing tomorrow. And so this is what that really starts to look at when we look at our data for this. So we now have all of our schools using Class Dojo, which is great because it's faster when we need to send quick information to just send something out on Class Dojo. And so now we can do that district wide. And so if we can go to the next slide. We've got about 3,700 of our families active on Class Dojo. And so we usually see this at the beginning of the year where the number is low and then it starts to increase, particularly when we get around like parent-teacher conference time, we start to see the numbers go up. And so this is a great start for us to have 3,700 active families using Class Dojo. And then emails and texts sent to families, particularly from the district office, are at about 25,000. And then we were also able to do a staff mailer earlier this year that went just to our district staff. And it was personalized and it was for back to school. And we got some great feedback on it because it had your name on it. And it told you welcome back to school. And so that was a fun one for us. And this last one is a new one that we're tracking, and it was actually inspired by our transportation team. One piece of feedback that we got from them was, we are the first people to see the students in the morning, and you sent out something last night that went district-wide. Why didn't I get it? How am I supposed to answer the question in the morning? And we thought, amazing feedback. And so one thing we want to get better at this year is when things are going out district-wide to families, everyone should know. From top to bottom, everyone should know what's happening and what we're sending out to families. And so we really want to do a better job of not only sending out that information that's going out to families, but also doing a better job of sharing positive news out across the district.
And that concludes our update on guardrail number 1 and the interim guardrails that we are working on this year.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Comments?
Yeah, just a comment. Nicole, as far as the bus transportation, they've been really doing a great job. Like when we had like a half day turned into a full day, they got off, the aide came talk to me, make sure I knew about everything. So I like that they got that awareness, they're checking in with parents and making sure that, you know, we got the information we need. So great job. Thank you.
Wonderful. I just want to echo the gratitude I have for the systems in place and going everywhere. I feel like I'm constantly learning more and more about what our communications team is doing, and I bother Dr. G often about just so I feel like I hear everything because she's always answering my questions. So that's why I don't have any questions for this evening. So with that, I move that we approve our monitoring report for Superintendent Guardrail number 1. Do we have a second?
This is Erica and I second.
Thank you kindly. May we please have a roll call vote? Board Member Ovalle?
Aye.
Board Member Edmiston?
Aye.
President Trujillo? Aye. With that, our motion passes and we'll move on to item G6. This is a time for discussing our board self-guardrail. I'll read it. In attaining the board's student outcome goals, the board shall not direct or appear to direct staff on day-to-day operations. And I will share about this. In my experience, this guardrail was developed as a board to be an accountability measure on-board members to recognize how their involvement, big, little, small, absent, very participatory, ultimately impacts others and our students. So I just have to keep in mind all the time when I'm operating and asking a bunch of questions, is this in my sphere of responsibility? And I just will say that our superintendent is entrusted to lead the district's day-to-day operations, and when we allow her to focus fully on those responsibilities that we place in her care, we just give her the space to do her job correctly and not impact your schedule and things like that with our own with what is it when we focus on our own inputs at the expense of student outcomes, where it's like our priorities become bigger and we kind of lose sight that you've got to be focused on all these other things we just heard about tonight for our kids. So with that, we don't have to vote on anything. Let's move on to item H1. Do we have any future agenda items? 8:35.
Yeah, I think I have one, or actually maybe two. So I wanted to ask for the next meeting in advance of November, if it would be appropriate to have a presentation or a briefing on the current state of the sale, lease, and exchange of property. That would be really helpful. Election before, in advance, like the current status.
I don't think off the top of my head. Should know.
I was thinking for the October meeting. I don't know when the November one is, but in advance of November, like just to have
Just to give a general presentation on what are the properties that are currently available for sale, trade and lease?
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, we can provide a quick presentation on that.
Okay, and then the second one is the status of the security cameras.
We can provide that in a board update with that. Or do you want a presentation on or a board update?
I think a presentation would be beneficial.
I wrote down presentation on security cameras, but I was also finishing writing the first one down. Did I hear that correctly? My apologies.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So would that be like a district-wide coverage, I guess?
Yeah, district-wide.
Okay, district-wide, got it. Any further requests? With that, we'll move on to item I1, adjournment. I move that we adjourn our meeting this evening at 8:38 p.m. Do we have a second?
This is Erica and I second.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Board Member Ovalle,
Aye.
Board Member Edmiston,
Aye.
President Trujillo.
Aye. With that, our motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Our next meeting will be October 2nd, which is a Thursday again, 5:15 p.m. here at the Governing Board, 18